So avoiding an all or nothing approach to art. I think this is a big problem for a lot of people. I've noticed it a lot over the years with loads of different people that that people kind of have very high expectations, either for the amount of practice they'll do, the amount of work they'll produce, the quality of it, how much they'll enjoy it. And when whatever they pursue doesn't immediately kind of fulfill those expectations, they become disheartened and either stop doing it or just sort of generally lose interest. I think it's a really bad way to look at things. It's kind of like it's like kind of taking a photo and drawing a picture and holding the picture up to it and the drawing up to the photo, and being disappointed that it doesn't match. It's kind of it's most things in life are never going to be what you expect them to be. They're never going to really be what you plan for them to be. They kind of like grow organically in unexpected ways. I think also people think that if they haven't, for example, learned a certain skill by a certain age, that it's too late, and they forget that most of the people who say this, they're like under 40, under 50. Take painting, for example. Like, you could in theory start painting at 40, and by the time you're 60 you'll have been doing it for 20 years, and a lot of people who've been painting for 20 years are really successful and are basically like masters of their craft. So I think it's stupid for people to think that it's kind of too late to do something, or that if they can't immediately do a lot of it or do well at it, that it's pointless to do. Unless what you're doing is totally dependent on youth, but I don't think many things really are. And also, there's, first of all, from just learning a skill, even if you spend a year doing something and you don't get that good at it, and you never do it again, and you never use that skill again, you've learned the skill of learning a skill. You've kind of learned practice, and you've learned a lot of kind of micro skills along the way. And not only that, but some of those things you might say, for example, say you get into photography and you do it for like a year or 2 years, and you think at the time this is something that you really want to do, and you want to do it as a job, or just at least as a fully developed hobby that you do all the time. And it doesn't go that way, and you kind of stop doing it, or you like lose focus and you get distracted with other things, and you never, or at least at that point, you haven't gotten to the level that you think you're going to. It might be that 5 years later you start doing something completely different, but where these skills are still relevant or really useful. Obviously, there are so many creative fields where photography is a useful skill to have, to be able to do your own photography, at least even just to a semi-decent level. There are a lot of things where you don't need incredible photography, but you need something kind of half decent to fulfill a role in something else that you're doing. So I think people underestimate how useful the time they spent working on something was, even if it wasn't immediately fruitful in the way they'd anticipated. And I think also, assuming it's enjoyable, then obviously it's a good way to spend time. But yeah, I also think, as I said, that people kind of forget that a lot of people who are very successful, you know, they're considered to reach their peak by the time they're like 30 or something. Well, most of them have only been doing that thing for like 10 years, you know, and life is really long. So, and I know it's harder to learn things as you get like much older, but not really. I mean, not until you get to like 50 or so. It's still pretty easy to learn things before then. And I think for things like writing and stuff, I think a lot of people are probably better at an older age. Yeah, I think it's really good to avoid that mindset and to not think too much in terms of an ideal, or to be like overly perfectionist if it's going to stop you from actually doing things. I think just think of it like kind of adding pennies to a jar over the years, you know, like it might be a tiny amount, but they're not going anywhere. They're staying in the jar, and you're just going to keep adding more over the years, and eventually it could amount to something. It might not. It might, you know, only amount to a few pounds, but you're not going to lose anything by doing it. There's nothing you can, you know, you can invest your time in something, but I don't think investing time in learning a skill is really a waste of time, even if it doesn't go anywhere relative to all the other things you could waste your time on. So I think just more is more in this respect, you know, just kind of do as much as you can, as much as possible, and don't worry about where it's going or how good you are at it if you don't need to. Just think of it as improving your stats overall as a person as you kind of go through life, you know, and you never know when weird skills might come in handy, even maybe just in terms of appreciating other people's work and stuff. So yeah, I think just fucking go at it and do things. I don't think there's any reason for people to worry or fret over stuff like that.